Notre Dame battling number 8 Indiana, the game in South Bend. Then on Saturday the 21st, number 4 Penn State plays host to number 10 SMU, number 16 Clemson at number 3 Texas, number 6 Ohio State at home against number 7 Tennessee. The second round starts on Tuesday, December 31st. That New Year's Eve has number 3 Boise State taking on the SMU Penn State winner. 3 games on New Year's Day. Number 4 Arizona State gets the Clemson Texas winner. Number 1 Oregon faces the Tennessee Ohio State victor. Number 2 Georgia gets the Indiana Notre Dame winner. Bowl season gets underway this Saturday with the Celebration Bowl in Atlanta. South Carolina State battles Jackson State. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
I juggle a lot. And managing constipation with belly pain from my irritable bowel syndrome with constipation, or IBS-C, with laxatives and fiber isn't enough. My doctor recommended a way to get ahead of it. Then I said yes to Linzess.
Linzess linaclotide is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. It's not a laxative. It's a once-daily pill that helps you get ahead of your symptoms. It's proven to help you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually. Do not give Linzess to children less than 2. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. Talk to your doctor and learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LANZESS.
No way football is playing in the fall and winter.
Because the hits don't hurt as much when you're numb. Get the lowdown on all the sports action coming up right here.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Off and running in today's edition of Football Full Circle, right here on the SportsGrid Radio Network. Sirius Channel 159. Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel taking you around the NFL for the next hour. It starts on Thursday night. NFC West battle. Scotty, we got San Francisco battling the LA Rams earlier in the year. The Rams did get the victory 27-24. Rams coming off a dynamic home win over the Buffalo Bills. On the flip side, San Francisco got off the mat, defeated Chicago. They're a 3-point home favorite, but something tells me the dog could be barking tomorrow night.
Yeah, listen, and that's key about the Rams, Joe, because, them being a game up on San Francisco, if they were to win Thursday, tomorrow, now they're going to have the head-to-head advantage against San Francisco, right? Because they won both meetings. So this is really worth 2 games. And for all intents and purposes, this really would be it for San Francisco if they were to lose. Mathematically, could you come up with a scenario where they could still win the division? Yeah, but, you're talking about picking up 3 games with 4 left to play. I mean, and you'd have to overtake at least 2 teams, if not 3 teams. So it would be basically over for the San Francisco 49ers. And I think it will, and we'll get into it here, but you know what? I don't believe in teams all of a sudden being able to turn it on. I think the Niners are done. I think the Rams win again.
Yeah, they were outscored 73-20 in back-to-back losses, right, against the Bills and Green Bay. They got abused 38-10 and 35-10 respectively, and then played a beaten-down Chicago team. Chicago hadn't won a true road game heading into last week. Bigger picture, too, Scotty, the identity of San Francisco, and I understand Christian McCaffrey's been hurt. I understand the injuries to Ayuk and George Kittle in and out of the lineup, but, they have not looked like the same offense at all. They're struggling to find an identity. The defense has been abused by better offenses. Deebo Samuel, I don't know if you saw this week, they called him out and said, you're struggling. He said, I'm just not getting the football, which is completely baseless and not true because he leads the team in terms of drop passes. He's fumbled kickoffs and fly sweeps. This team, even if they do, let's just say, win 1 or 2 games, big picture, if they were to make it to the playoffs somehow, some way, I still think they'd be one and done with Shanahan.
Yeah, they're the perfect version of the Cincinnati Bungles. Everyone's holding on hope for Cincinnati. You know, that they barely beat Dallas Monday night. Now they're still mathematically alive and just get in, and they're the most dangerous team, blah, 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 right? But I don't think it's going to happen with Cincinnati. I don't think it's going to happen with San Francisco. And Debo in particular, Joe, you know, he hasn't had more than 25, not 100 or 75 or even 50. He hasn't had more than 25 yards receiving in the last 4 San Francisco games. You know, just when you need this guy to step up with McCaffrey being out, Ayuk being out, you know, I like him. I'd probably take him on my team, but I wouldn't pay him top dollar. You know, he's the classic football player. He just is to me. You know, he finally gets paid big time bucks, and the production disappears. They just, whatever it takes for them to be successful, these guys, a lot of them anyway, stop doing it. And it appears like he's stopping doing it. 23 yards, 22 yards, 20 yards. I mean, that's a joke. You get that on one catch, let alone an entire game. And he hasn't done it in 4 games.
And even in the rushing attack, outside the week 1 matchup against the New York Jets, where I believe he carried the ball 7-8 times, and they grinded out that victory with Jordan Mason on the ground. He hasn't been utilized in regards to the rushing attack at all. Not the same way, not the same type of explosive plays in terms of the reverses and him breaking contain and just making touchdowns. So I do agree with that. Jawan Jennings, to me, is the most consistent player on that offense. He stepped up, not just in terms of third downs. He leads the team in terms of receiving yards, touchdowns now over the past couple of weeks. Brock Purdy does go to Jawan Jennings more than he goes to anybody else. He's the one player at least you could buy into. But I'm not buying into the spread either. And I understand that Shanahan has owned McVay in recent years, but even though they're at home laying 3, I would probably take the points, and I even like the Rams on the money line based off the performance on Sunday against the Bills.
Yeah, listen, over the years, yep, it's been dominated by San Fran, right? 23-10-1 since 2008, 9-3 their last 12 meetings, but the Rams have won the last 2. So for me, you can throw all that previous stuff out the window. Bottom line is the Rams won at the end of last season, and they won earlier this year. So there's no mystique that San Francisco or Shanahan has over McVay. Like I said, I like the Rams as well this week.
You like the Rams' big picture, Scotty, 20-1 to potentially be a dark horse in the NFC Championship, right? They were more in the area of about 35-40-1 when they were under 500. Now they're crawling back. They're 20-1 right now behind Tampa Bay, Minnesota, Green Bay, the Eagles, and obviously Detroit that has the number 1 seed. If they could win this game tomorrow night, I mean, not bad, not a bad matchup. They get into the playoffs. They could go toe-to-toe with anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I like their chances more than I do, Tampa Bay. Let's put it that way. You might be even able to sell me on rather having the Rams than the Minnesota Vikings, to tell you the truth. I mean, I wouldn't put them up there with Philadelphia, Detroit. Yeah, I mean, it's Sam Darnold. The Vikings aren't blowing anybody out. I don't know. There's something about that team after they had that great run to start the season, beating Green Bay and San Fran. Then they lost a couple of games, and ever since then, it's been just like, I don't know. I got to see Sam Darnold
They're not
in the postseason.
I get that. But the way they pulled away in terms of the second half against Atlanta, their defense is as good as anybody. They get to the passer. They force turnovers. I mean, that recipe in a playoff type of environment is pretty conducive. At 850, I sort of like Minnesota. I mean, I do like the Rams in terms of a value play. And you're right. If you're putting Tampa and LA side by side, as much as I believe in Baker and as much as I believe in those playmakers, Rashad White, that stepped up, I do feel that LA is more complete offensively, and I do believe in their defense just a little bit more. I mean, Tampa Bay used to have one of the dominant defenses in all of the conference. They're a bend but don't break unit. We've seen other teams abuse them as well, and I understand that about the Rams. It's just that the Rams have won a Super Bowl where Tampa, without Brady, still searching for some answers.
Yeah, I think the big pick, like the A game of the Rams is better than the A game of Tampa Bay, right? And that's how you kind of have to view these things when you get into the postseason. You're going to need an A game from a club in order to win. So give me the A game of the Rams versus the A game of Tampa Bay. Now, listen, it was just, 2-3 weeks ago, whatever it was, when the Rams couldn't beat the Miami Dolphins at home. So we're remembering last week.
Got blown out by the Eagles.
and got blown out. Really did get blown out by the Eagles. So there's two games. Now all of a sudden they play lights out against Buffalo, and we're all hopping on the Rams bandwagon. But I will say, as we were doing the in-game live Sunday, Joe, that's the Rams team that, is capable of winning a couple of games in the postseason that we saw, at least offensively anyway, against Buffalo. You don't get that all the time, but that's what I mean by the Rams A game. To me, is better than the Tampa Bay game. Although, keep in mind, who's the one team that beat the Detroit Lions this year? Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay. That was, they put up over 150 more yards of total offense. They got into the red zone multiple times. And that, when you think back about how dominant that defensive performance was by Tampa Bay, holding that team under 20 points, that was a pretty good effort to pull that victory out. Updated win total, Scotty, for the LA Rams, 9.5 plus 160 to the over. They were a 10-7 team last year. They pick up this victory against San Francisco. That's a doable number. I would bet it now rather than after tomorrow night.
Yeah, and you want to do that, you just bet the Rams on the money line, right? Because the Rams can't get to that number unless they win tomorrow night. So I think I'd rather bet the Rams.
Do that, but you want to take the Rams on the money line? I think, honestly, I might even take an alt spread on them. I believe in them that much. I might lay 2 or 3 with the Rams. I do believe the Rams pick up the victory. You can get better value there. 49.5 for the total, Scott. I know both teams coming off overs, but I would probably lean to the under in terms of this matchup, especially on the road.
Yeah, especially after the shootout we just saw. That number's going to be inflated. That's not going to happen again.
When we come back, we'll break down more Week 15 action in the NFL. Keep it right here on Football Full Circle.
Fall is coming.
Don't look like an idiot at work. Know your stuff. Football and everything else.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
A state senator from Lancaster County will leave his seat in Pennsylvania's legislature to go work for the state's newly elected U.S. senator. This update brought to you by Verizon. Senator Ryan Aument, a Republican, intends to resign before the new legislative session begins January 3rd to become Senator-elect David McCormick's state director. Aument has served as the caucus whip for the Senate Republican majority for the past 2 years. He was elected to the State House of Representatives in 2010 and to the Senate in 2014. He was serving his third Senate term in a heavily Republican district. General Motors says it will retreat from the robo-taxi business and stop funding its money-losing Cruise autonomous vehicle unit. Instead, the automaker will focus on development of partially automated driver assist systems like its Super Cruise, which allows drivers to take their hands off the steering wheel. GM said it would get out of robo-taxis given the considerable time and resources that would be needed to scale the business along with an increasingly competitive robo-taxi market. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
Let's face it, winter can be a hard season. It's cold pretty much all the time. Blizzard. You have to shovel. Another blizzard. You slip on ice. But you know what makes winter suck a little less? Getting a free phone. Join Cricket Nation and get a free Samsung Galaxy A15 5G. Ooh, ouch. Welcome to enjoying more. Welcome to Cricket Nation. Smile, you're on Cricket.
Cricket 5G is not available everywhere. Must open a new line on the $60 unlimited plan. First month service charge and tax due at sale. Fees, terms, and other restrictions apply. See cricketwireless.com for details.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds, which could be life-changing. You could put that money towards concert tickets for your daughter to see that singer who sings about painful breakups. And one song will inspire your little beauty to break up with that beast she's dating, Brian. Instead, she'll date someone who's nice and worthy of her love, not someone who addresses you and your spouse as bro. And it's all because you could save money switching at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states.
Fall is almost here.
It's time to stow the lawnmower and get ready for all that glorious action coming your way. Stay tuned to SportsGrid for all the strategies, angles, and info you need to get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Back on Football Full Circle, Lisi and Wetzel taking you through the NFL for week number 15. Scotty, I can't believe we're ripping through. The NFL season's almost signed, sealed, and delivered, and playoffs are around the corner. Season flies, I tell you. It's long when you're doing the work, but six months flies in a flash when it comes down to the NFL season. Couple of games
Yeah.
of note. No, I just want to bring up this game. People are looking at this game, Dolphins, right? On the road against Houston, right? They get the overtime win. Now it's like Cincinnati, LA that gets the victory over Buffalo, and our cherished Miami Dolphins now can get back into the playoff hunt. They're building this game up against Houston this weekend as maybe just, a springboard to potentially jumping right back into the playoff race. Mike McDaniel and the crew. Do you buy into this team big picture? Big picture, like from what you've seen, healthy, not healthy, coaching staff, defense, because I don't. I still don't. I think they're a one and done if they creep into the playoffs. I will not buy into them big picture until McDaniel is gone.
Yeah.
Hopefully
Yeah,
this year.
I don't even buy into him, Joe, little picture. I mean, forget about big picture. They're not any good. They just aren't. The numbers are so revealing, about how the record is so poor against good teams and so good against the bad teams. They're the best of the rest. That's what they are. I don't know why you think they would be better, but they're just not. So, would they, win and still get in? Not really. I tell you, the key game in the AFC, by far, is Denver against Indianapolis. If Denver wins and the Dolphins lose their game, which is possible, then the Broncos are in, because they would hold the head-to-head tiebreaker over the Indianapolis Colts, who they would have just beaten. Dolphins, lost to the Colts, so they wouldn't be able to catch them. They wouldn't be able to catch, Denver. So this could be the last weekend where we got to have all these full stories about how the Dolphins are back and they're playing great, because they can beat up a bad team. I mean, they barely beat the stinking Jets, Joe. I mean, they needed overtime. They needed a last-second 50-yard field goal just to get the game to overtime against the Jets, who haven't been competitive and worth anything all season long. And that's what it took for them to win that game. So, at this point, you hate to say it because there are 4 weeks left, but it's almost like you just root for them to lose. Get the coach fired. Get him out of there. I'm not a McDaniel fan. Never have been. I think he's so overrated. His true colors came shining through when Tua was out, and he did absolutely nothing with two backup quarterbacks. Oh, by the way, the backup quarterback that he decided to keep on the football team, and he was awful in Skylar Thompson. So, I don't buy into this Dolphin picture. Paid Tua a lot of money, and it's not going to work with him.
And we'll touch on the Colt game later, but that line has moved. Denver opened up as a 4.5-point home favorite. We're seeing 3.5s on FanDuel here on Wednesday. So there is money coming in right now on the Colts. I actually like the Colts in that battle. It's not to take away from Bo Nix, and they've done a fantastic job. But something just tells me the Colts could be within margin to potentially maybe pull off the upset in that battle. But you look at Miami, 2-4 against on the road or on a neutral field this year. I mean, that's pathetic. I just, you think about Tyreek Hill, you think about Jalen Waddle, Jonnu Smith now that is a more and one of the better productive tight ends in terms of all of the NFL, right? And I just, and again, to your point, this was a dead Jets team last week. A Jet team that jumps out 14-0, then 21-7, then does not score in the second half against Seattle, right? And then they go to Miami. You got to believe they get their doors blown off. What was it? They hadn't scored a touchdown since what? 2021 in South Beach or against Miami as a whole? I mean, that is pathetic, Scott. And you let that team push you to the limit, and they're all high-fiving and all excited that they pulled the game out in overtime when they should have blown them out. I mean, again, do you believe Tua long-term could get us to a Super Bowl?
I don't think he'd stay healthy, Joe. Listen, he's clearly better than the backup quarterbacks, right? If anything else, maybe we appreciate him a little bit more just because the backup quarterbacks were so bad.
Let me ask you this. Let me pose it differently. Elite, right? And I'll throw just a couple of AFC guys on there. Do you think he's on par with Burrow? Do you think he's on par with Allen? Do you think he's on par with C.J. Stroud?
Herbert.
I'll throw Herbert. I'll throw those four. Do you feel like he's similar in terms of if you put him on another team, he would produce the same type of numbers?
No, I don't put him on that level. Don't put him far, far below that, but I don't put him on those levels. I don't think this team would be I don't think he would be any better with anybody else. I mean, he's got weapons galore. It's not like, even now with Smith really emerging, as you mentioned, as a terrific tight end. I mean, he's got good wide receivers. He's got good tight end. He's got an offensive-minded head coach. This is it. For me, this is as good as it's going to get. Like, you put two on the Buffalo Bills, all those teams you mentioned, or at least players and teams, I don't think they would be any better, and I think they would be worse. I don't think Buffalo would be where they are if they had Tua as their quarterback. I don't think the Chargers would be where they are if they had Tua. The Bengals, just because they're having a bad year, and we won't even mention Mahomes. No, I don't think so. And I think you could put all those quarterbacks on the Dolphins and be better. As strange as it sounds, he doesn't scramble. As much as I hate scrambling quarterbacks, Joe, you need to scramble. You just do. And he can't just drop back and throw the ball. He's too small, so he's got to maneuver around the pocket. Yet he won't run. He's just he's an accident waiting to happen, right? I mean, you know the injury's coming right around the corner.
So he's more of a product, you could say, of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle being in that lineup than he is being an elite quarterback.
You put Tua on a bad team, and that bad team will be a bad team.
He's not going to elevate with that. I sort of agree with that. I believe that having Tyreek and Jalen in that lineup elevates his game to another level, right? Where Josh has done more with less over the past couple of seasons, right? In terms of elevating his play, playing at an MVP level, throwing a Mac Hollins and Khalil Shakir, right? So that's a fair assessment. We'll come back. We'll break down the AFC, NFC odds heading into week number 15. Joe Lisi, Scott Wetzel, right here on Football Full Circle. Don't go anywhere. We're coming right back.
There's smart.
And there's not smart.
Not smart is hope as a strategy. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Keep it here.
And win. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
1951, Joe DiMaggio announces his retirement. Joltin' Joe won 3 MVP awards and had a 56-game hitting streak in 1941. After his career, the Yankee Clipper married Hollywood star Marilyn Monroe.
I wanna be loved by you alone.
For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
Chinese researchers have created a robot that can identify plants just by touching them. Mimicking the delicate touch of human skin, identifying plant species with 97% accuracy, sensing moisture and texture machine vision can't see. The goal? An army of robot farm workers tirelessly monitoring, fertilizing, and applying pesticide to individual plants 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, increasing crop yields. Even identifying dangerous plant species.
That would be poison ivy.
Follow me at G. Capalbo on X and stay tuned to The Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
The early line.
I'm watching Atlanta defensively last week, and they were hitting Herbert left and right. If that defense shows up here against Minnesota and does that to Sam Darnold, you can get the Sam Darnold version of Kirk Cousins last week with 4 interceptions. So I think Atlanta is very much alive to not only cover, but win this game outright.
It's the early line with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Weekdays, 8 a.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on the SportsGrid Radio Network. Wherever you go,
there you are.
Download the SportsGrid mobile app and we'll be right there with you.
So now you can get the winning edge anywhere.
Even while the wife's talking to you.
If you've got an earbud.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, continuing the conversation, heading into week number 15, taking a look at the conference odds, AFC and NFC. I'll throw up the AFC odds right now. Kansas City Still the front runner at plus 210, Scotty. Buffalo right behind them at plus 240, even though they dropped that ball game against the LA Rams. Baltimore lurking third overall at plus 470. Texans at 10-1. Steelers at 10-1. And the Chargers at 14-1. Even in the loss on Sunday night to Kansas City, still impressed with Jim Harbaugh has done in just 1 year, right? I thought it would take 2 or 3 years to weed out the talent. He's gotten the most out of that defense right now. They're playing in terms of intensity. They're getting after the quarterback, forcing turnovers. They can run the football at times very effectively with Gus Edwards and Vidal. I like this team overall. I don't know if they're really as elite or as complete as Buffalo and even obviously Baltimore, even though this, record-wise, Baltimore's struggling a little bit. But I think that in, a perfect situation for a run, LA with Harbaugh maybe can make some noise at 14-1.
Yeah. They got to get McConkey back. Boy, without him in the lineup, you saw how limited their offense is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're
got
almost
hurt too. The kid Disley got banged up, their tight end.
The tight end, yeah, kid from Seattle. Used to be from Seattle anyway. But their running backs are older, so they're not going to get any better. The wide receiver, McConkey should get better, but they clearly need some more weapons on offense. So I think they're limited. I think they would be a one and done. The only team to me, Joe, that is really worth it is I still think is the Pittsburgh Steelers. I just wish they didn't have the monster schedule they have, because if they can win that division, I think them even more so than Buffalo. To me, they have the recipe. They got a great defense. They got a great running game. They got a veteran quarterback, give them the ball down 3, final minute, can get the drive done. To me, they got a winning head coach. Although the success in the postseason for Mike Tomlin hasn't been around, in a number of years. But I think them at 10-1. Otherwise, who's going in? You're going to have to go into Kansas City with this Buffalo loss last week, and now they got to play Detroit. I mean, it's almost, not quite, but it's almost guaranteed that Kansas City is going to get the number 1 seed. They're going to get a bye. You're going to have to win in Kansas City. So which team is situated best to win in Kansas City? And I know Buffalo's had some success, and they beat KC at home this year, but until they really get it done in the postseason, I'm not believing in the Bills. It would be Pittsburgh. I think the Kansas City at 2-1 is still a really good bet. I mean, who ultimately really is going to win, right? But I would give Pittsburgh the best shot at it if the Steelers can win the division.
Well, if you're looking at the AFC West, right, both games that they played against Denver and LA were basically right down to the last-second field goal, right? Denver with Bo Nix lost that game, 16-14, and then LA loses that matchup 19-17 the other night on Sunday night. So if they were able to sneak in to a playoff type of situation and go on the road to face off against Mahomes, 14-1 and 21-1, I would buy in more with Herbert than I would, obviously, Bo Nix in a playoff type of situation. You would take the Steelers. I sort of would take Baltimore. And I don't love that team as a whole, but I do believe they are built with the rushing attack at Derrick Henry, and if Lamar is on his game, and that's a huge if, right? Because that's the one question he hasn't answered in a playoff type of environment when the chips are in the middle of the table. Can Lamar, with the passing attack, take a game over when the game is on the line and you need a 2-minute drill? He had that opportunity against Kansas City. He failed, and they never look back, right? Now, this year, they've already got 5 losses on the year. You look at this team overall, priced at $470, Scotty. They could beat the Bills. They could beat the Kansas City Chiefs on their best day, right? When Henry's running for $130 and you have Lamar hitting and working off a play action, I would buy into that than I think anybody else on the AFC right now. Now, the only one I would say, if they get in, they're playing with house money. I mean, you want to take a shot on Cincinnati now, 180-1 to win the AFC.
Yeah, that's not happening. That's not happening. They're not getting.
I'm just saying. I know they're not, but I'm saying it's worth the value if they do somehow, some way, right? He's the one quarterback that they lost.
You know what would have to happen though? They would have to. It would be like next to impossible, Joe, because you need Denver to lose But Denver's playing teams that are trying to catch them, which means all the teams in front of, i.e. Indianapolis, in front of Cincinnati would be winning as well.
We'll see. We'll come back. We'll break down more Week 15. Keep it where it is.
The winning edge.
You've got it.
But not everybody has it, because not everybody listens to us.
But we're working on that.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders. The college football playoff gets underway on Friday, December the 20th. The first round matchup has number 5 Notre Dame battling number 8 Indiana, the game in South Bend. Then on Saturday the 21st, number 4 Penn State plays host to number 10 SMU, number 16 Clemson at number 3 Texas, number 6 Ohio State at home against number 7 Tennessee. The second round starts on Tuesday, December 31st. That New Year's Eve has number 3 Boise State taking on the SMU Penn State winner. 3 games on New Year's Day. Number 4 Arizona State gets the Clemson Texas winner. Number 1 Oregon faces the Tennessee Ohio State victor. Number 2 Georgia gets the Indiana Notre Dame winner. Bowl season gets underway this Saturday with the Celebration Bowl in Atlanta. South Carolina State battles Jackson State. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Get even more savings this holiday season by becoming a Milo's Rewards member. Don't miss new member deals dropping every week, like $15 off a purchase of $50 or more on select Bounty, Charmin, and Puffs paper products. Plus, get free standard shipping with Silver Key status. Just one more way Lowe's is here to help you shop, save, and enjoy the holidays. Join for free today. Milo's Rewards program subject to terms and conditions. Visit Lowe's.com/terms for details. Subject to change. Exclusions and more terms apply. Visit Lowe's.com/shipping terms for details.
Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like to check the propane tank on your grill first before hosting a tailgate.
Let's fire up. Here, let me try. Seriously? You didn't check the propane? Who wants chips?
Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds.
Salt and vinegar?
You're in good hands with Allstate.
Savings vary. Subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Days are getting cooler.
The shadows are getting longer.
You know what that means.
It's football weather. So bundle up and keep it here for all the latest strategies and gridiron information.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
It's week number 15. Scott and I are only together one day a week, so we'll try to dive into some of the most intriguing games. I've only had one cup of coffee yet. Bear with me. And we'll see if we can get some nice picks here for week number 15. How about this game, Scotty? Because we did talk about it earlier, but I want to bring it up now. Arizona and New England. And the reason why I say that is I was high on Arizona when they were 6-4. They had won 4 straight games. They beat teams like the Jets and the Bears in back-to-back weeks. Then all of a sudden, Kyler reverted back to his old ways. He started to, retreat 14 yards in terms of the pocket and throw underneath passes only. Or better yet, he likes to throw picks to opposing defenses like he did against Seattle. They're laying now 5.5 against New England. You and I were together last night. We talked about it briefly, right? That how this line is indicative to me of a huge Arizona win. 5.5 to lay, even though they're at home. They haven't stepped up in recent weeks, and New England has been a pretty good dog in terms of a covering machine. On the road, I like Arizona as a double-digit win to bounce back in a big way. Under the 46.5, though, Scotty, I think, in the matchup.
Yeah, Arizona's almost dead to me. I had them big last week against Seattle, Joe. I really thought after losing to Seattle, their worst offensive performance a couple of weeks ago, they had a chance to, get revenge and everything. They're at home, moment of truth. You lost a couple of games, blew the lead you had in the NFC West, and they lay a complete egg again. This is Kyler Murray. It's just, he's a coach killer. That expression is because he shows potential. You buy into the potential. You pay him $1 gazillion. And then he performs like he's performed this year, like he's performed basically every single year. He has games where he shows you why he's in the NFL. He's not horrible, not saying that. But then he has games like he's had these last couple of weeks where he's had a chance to elevate his team, get it out of that middle of the road 500 pack. But that's who he is. And that's who the Arizona Cardinals is because of that. So they lose games like they lost last week. You know what? I wouldn't bet on them this week. Chances are they probably do rebound because that number does seem a little small, right? But it's something I can't bet on this guy. He's the perfect, you look at his number. He's like the Miami Dolphins, good team, bad team. He is great against the spread as an underdog. Phenomenal. But he's lousy against the spread as a favorite, which he is here. So when they sneak up on teams, it's the Cardinals, it's Kyler Murray, he stinks. That's when they do well. But when teams prepare for him, because they say, you know what, this is a good team, we got to really take this team seriously, he doesn't do well. So
no, you're right. Now, I watched every snap of that game in respect to the Seattle game. I was very impressed, though, Scotty, with Seattle's offense and defensive lines. They blew the Cardinals off the ball with Zach Charbonnet. They ran it for well over 150 yards in that game. Charbonnet had 130 yards himself on the ground. That defense forced turnover. The biggest thing, and you're right, when they're winning games, right, like they did against Miami and like they did in the middle part of the year against the Chargers, 17-15, they're utilizing James Conner, they're running the football, and he's working off of play action. When they have to pass, when they're in a deficit, the biggest thing that I've seen with Kyler Murray is he immediately breaks contain. He's afraid to just sit in the pocket, locate the wide receivers, go through the reads, go through the progressions, and find the deep shot, right? He goes underneath to Trey McBride on almost each and every play. And that's not a knock on McBride. He's a fantastic player. Doesn't probably get enough hype as being one of the best tight ends in all of the NFL, right? He had no catches at the half. He had 0 yards. He finishes the game with 78. And part of that, though, is that Kyler Murray checks down on almost each and every play. He's afraid to throw over the top. He's afraid to locate Marvin Harrison or Wilson like he did in terms of the first drive. He doesn't know how to assess, and that's the one thing that scares me. But they've lost 3 straight. They're still in the mix for an NFC West title, right? If you're not going to get it here at home against a rookie quarterback in Drake May that is 2-5 on the road straight up, when does it come? If it's not this week, it's not coming, and then they're dead and buried for the playoffs.
Right. And you could go with that philosophy. If it's going to happen, this is the week. I kind of did that last week. Kyler Murray as an underdog, 30-18-2 against the spread, 12 games over 500. Real good, right? As a favorite, 11-18 against the spread, 7 games under. And here's another good one.
He's a money burn.
Murray. And here's a good one, Joe, which really kind of puts Kyler Murray into perspective. In games in November and December, when his club has a winning record, 5-13 against the spread. So when push really comes to shove and they got a good record like this year, a good team, when you really start playing serious football, he fails. That's Kyler Murray. So I wouldn't put any faith in him this week. Although he probably does cover, but I wouldn't just because of last week.
Yeah, I know. I'm taking a shot just because I think now this is a beatable opponent. I sort of like Gannon with that defense, right? They're aggressive. They could maybe confuse Drake May in terms of the ball game and maybe, pull out a double-digit win. You're going to have to basically win it by 7 or more. You're laying 5.5. So if you're going to win it by 7, I would take a shot at maybe altering it up to 9.5. You get better value. I know that sounds crazy with a team that's lost 3 straight, but I'm not buying in, obviously, to New England. How about this one? We talked about Kansas City, right? They've clinched the division for the 9th straight year. They're on the road. This line opened up at 5.5, Scotty. We're seeing 4.5s creep in right now. I know it's going to be cold. It's going to be windy, but they're built for that. Kansas City, all they do is win. Are we expecting an emotional letdown with the Browns coming off the division loss to Pittsburgh and not covering by 13? Do we expect Jameis to put up any points on that defense? Love is a big word. I like Kansas City now that the line went from 5.5 to 4.5 and 45.5. I would buy into the over.
Yeah, I like the Browns. I don't know if they win.
Why? Please tell me why.
Well, because it's the Kyler Murray thing. Same thing. It's the bounce back with Jameis Winston. He laid an egg last week in Pittsburgh. He was great the weeks before. Now he's going to show why he's still in the NFL. And so he's due for an uptick.
Against
in the
Kansas City, though?
Kansas City's D. Who cares? Kansas City's D disappeared when they needed to make a big-time stop against the Chargers, right? If not for Kansas City getting the ball back again. And it's 4.5, anything over a field goal. There's 7 straight games in which, Kansas City's failed to cover the spread. 6 of them are wins. So, Cleveland at home, this is their Super Bowl. Yeah, I do like the Browns. Again, you can't bet against them.
You need them to win. I mean, you need them 24-20. You need them 24-20, and you cover.
Yeah, they can do that.
You think that? Really? With Jameis? I'd be nervous with that. I'd just be nervous just because he'd be pressing Mahomes. He's going to want to outdo Mahomes.
This is their Super Bowl, though, Joe. This is their
Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
That's why I like the 45.5, Scotty. I think we're better off with the 45.5 than we are with the spread. I mean, like I said, over. Over.
Right.
Yeah. Because if Jameis is going to push, I mean, you don't think if you think he's going to throw for 300 in a bounce back, Kansas City's at least getting 20.
Kansas City's wins this year. You realize they've only won one game, well, two games by 10 points or more. Out of 12 wins, 2 games. So it's at 2, 3.
I know one of them, Scotty. One of them was New Orleans. What was the other one?
Yeah, San Francisco, 28-18. That was the other
right.
One. So you're
double-digit wins.
Yeah, double-digit. That's why I changed it from 1 to 2. I was going to say 1, but 2.
Right.
So, so you're giving me, not quite a touchdown, obviously. I liked it a lot better when it was 5.5. Then I would buy the hook and get it up to 6, and now I really got a monster number. But now it's 4.5. But I still think it's going to be a field goal game. It will. Kansas City will find a way to win. All right.
We will see how that plays out. When we come back, we'll dive into more NFL Week 15 action. Don't go anywhere. Coming right back.
Yeah, it's getting cooler.
Football weather is here.
Stay tuned for all the latest odds, strategies, and info. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
A state senator from Lancaster County will leave his seat in Pennsylvania's legislature to go work for the state's newly elected U.S. senator. This update brought to you by Verizon. Senator Ryan Aument, a Republican, intends to resign before the new legislative session begins January 3rd to become Senator-elect David McCormick state director. Aument has served as the caucus whip for the Senate Republican majority for the past 2 years. He was elected to the State House of Representatives in 2010 and to the Senate in 2014. He was serving his 3rd Senate term in a heavily Republican district. General Motors says it will retreat from the robo-taxi business and stop funding its money-losing Cruise autonomous vehicle unit. Instead, the automaker will focus on development of partially automated driver assist systems like its Super Cruise, which allows drivers to take their hands off the steering wheel. GM said it would get out of robo-taxis given the considerable time and resources that would be needed to scale the business along with an increasingly competitive robo-taxi market. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
Hard to believe that Christmas is only a couple of weeks away, right? But there's still plenty of time to find incredible gift deals because Macy's Friends and Family Sale is happening now. What does that mean? It means when you use your coupon or Macy's card, you can take an extra 30% off, just like Friends and Family can. That's 30% off the best holiday gifts, 30% off the best designer brands, 30% off what's trending right now. It's just this week. It's just what you were looking for, and it's only at Macy's. Savings off regular and already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
Oh no, my phone.
Hear that? It's the sound of a skater dropping her phone and smashing it on the ice. Yep, it's definitely broken. But at Verizon, we got you. This Black Friday, trade in any phone, any condition from one of our top brands and get a new Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus on Unlimited Ultimate and Watch 7 and Tab S9 FE 5G. That's up to $1,900 in value. So you'll save big on 3 great gifts. Hurry into Verizon this Black Friday. Service plan required for watch and tablet. Up to $1,900 value based on phone, watch, and tablet. Trade in and additional terms apply. See Verizon.com for details.
Ask any player and they'll tell you any advantage is important.
That's where we come in.
SportsGrid delivers gaming strategies and analysis 7 days a week.
The winning edge.
It's your advantage to more winning
more often.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Back on Football Full Circle, looking at the Week 15 slate. I got to be honest, I thought it was pretty good. I saw some of the games that jumped out, right? We talk about Denver and Indianapolis a little bit. That's a pretty intriguing game because of wild card potential for both teams. But the slate overall, Scotty, is a little soft, right? We got the Jets and Jaguars. We got the Ravens and Giants. What'd you think of the Giants' performance against New Orleans last week? That was a perfect opportunity. They did cover because, It went from 3.5, opened at 3.5, and went to 5.5. They have 1st and 10 inside the 20. You think potentially as a Giant fan, maybe we could score the touchdown? You don't even get the field goal. The gutless Giants don't even get the field goal, Scotty. They got 2 wins on the year, 2-11 overall, and they're talking already in New York about Cam Ward coming to be the new quarterback and face of the franchise. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, well, listen, a couple things here, Joe. One, they lost the battle, but they won the war, right? With Tennessee losing to Jacksonville. Yeah, well, they covered, but more importantly than that, even, they're now tied with the Raiders for the worst record in the NFL because Jacksonville won. So now there's only 2 teams that have only 2 wins. So at this point, I know there's 4 games left in the season. That's a lot, but realistically, what are the Giants playing for, right? You might as well lose every single game, Giant fan. Don't get upset with Giant losses because you don't want to have happen what happened last year when they went 3-3 with Tommy Cutlets, right? It cost them a chance to draft Jaden Daniels. They don't beat Washington and the 2 other teams. They're getting in the number 2 spot, and they're getting Jaden Daniels instead of the guy he was throwing the ball to. So you don't want to have that happen 2 years in a row and win these games. The other thing, Joe, is I've not heard anyone say this. The dopey announcers didn't bring it up, and I haven't seen it. But, you're not allowed to hop over players. That should. No. I don't know why that wasn't a penalty. He hopped over the center. That's not allowed. That's a penalty. And yet it wasn't called, and I haven't heard anyone talk about that. But you're not allowed to run and hop over guys.
Well, let me go back. Remember when they blocked the extra point against Geno Smith in Seattle? And they didn't call that for the New York Giants. So maybe they offset it. They offset it. Remember that? That was the big thing. You're not allowed to jump over. Right. And they won by 9, 29-20. Right. So you don't think Seattle's kicking themselves based off that? How is there no flag? We have seen terrible officiating throughout this Monday night, Sunday night, 1 o'clock. I'm trying to think the game. It was Minnesota and Atlanta this week. And obviously, Minnesota was my best play for the week, right? And I'm watching the game, and Kirk Cousins throws a dart to Drake London. And the defensive back from Minnesota clearly has 2 hands on the ball. And when they do the replay, they show Drake London not even have possession when they slowed it down. That one hand was completely off the ball when the D-back made the reception, and they expedited reviewed it and gave it to Kirk Cousins in Atlanta. It's amazing. The Monday night game, the first interception, the ball clearly rolls on the ground from the shoulder, and they don't even review it. They just let it go. It's incredible how many Joe Burrow's been hit in the face and face masked how many times with no calls this year. It's absolutely pathetic what they're doing.
I don't understand the missed calls on the quarterbacks. I mean, you have referees, umpires, whatever their official name is. You have the refs who are, signed on to watch the quarterback. There's guys in the backfield. That's your job. You watch the quarterback, no matter where he goes. You follow him. So it's not like it's a play away from the ball. It's the quarterback has got the play. These guys are getting their heads taken off, and there's no penalties. I mean, how do you miss that? And yet, I will tell you that in the Philadelphia game against Carolina, right, the last play of the game, or next to the last play, when Leggett, drops that ball, looks like it's a clear catch, and yet somehow or another the officials ruled it correctly. I mean, it's like, wow, how did they see that? So there are some plays where they have and I'm like, wow, how did that referee see that ball hit the ground that fast, that quickly, right? So it is kind of weird. I wish there was a better way. Listen, all you have to do is just have an eye in the booth. College used to have this. They reviewed every single play, and if they saw a play that wasn't right, you buzz down and you change it. It really is not that complicated.
Why don't they just take the college rules and review every play? That's
what I mean.
expedited review on everything. And you have the two challenges, and that's it. And we would not have to worry about these refs going back and forth. I want to know what they talk about all the time, too, when it's clear. If you see it and I see it, and we can make the determination within 2 seconds, what are they waiting on in terms of looking at all different things? It's absolutely atrocious. That being said, are you laying the 16.5, 17? But do you think they win this game? They probably do, right, Scott? 30-0. I mean, come on. Are the Giants going to score? They got 11 points last week. New Orleans.
I mean, that's a big number to lay on the road, right? I mean, but realistically.
Or does Derrick Henry run for like 200? What is more likely to happen? Probably Derrick Henry.
Be John Harbaugh will probably not even run him. He'll run him like 5 times. I'm really getting anti-John Harbaugh. I've seen too many of his games where this guy is just clueless. I don't get it, Joe. They all their losses, he's had less than 20 carries, Baltimore. Just give the guy the ball. And he's averaging over 5 yards a game in those losses. So it's not even like he's not doing well in those games. I mean, he is so heck bent on keeping this Lamar Jackson's team that it's going to cost them in the playoffs when they should be running the ball, cold weather, the whole kit and caboodle, and he's going to be throwing the ball 30 times, 35 times because he's just bent on making this Lamar Jackson's team. And, you got the stud in the backfield. I would be feeding him the ball 25, 30 times every single game. So,
all right,
whether they do that against the Giants, I don't know. But
so FanDuel does a great job of putting up the weekly specials. So they got some juicy ones here, okay? Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, each to record 100-plus receiving yards, 80-1. Now, they did that against – look, your ears perked up. 80-1. Like that, I could pay off some bills for the kids at 80-1. Yes or no? Do you like that?
Yes, absolutely. What, are you kidding me? You don't even have to ask.
All right, when we come back, we'll dive into the Week 15 specials on FanDuel. Joe Lisi, Scott Wetzel coming right back. Keep it where it is.
The boys of summer become the champions of fall.
The World Series is on its way.
And SportsGrid brings you every angle. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. SportsGrid TV and radio networks are the premier streaming video and audio channels dedicated to serving the sports wagering audience. Found on major smart TV platforms and streaming on SportsGrid Radio and SiriusXM Channel 159. SportsGrid's real-time data, expert commentary, and entertaining analysis transform viewers into informed sports enthusiasts. Our weekday radio lineup begins with the early line at 8 a.m. Eastern with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Donnie joins Kevin Walsh on Moneyline at 11 a.m. Eastern, followed by Football Full Circle at noon Eastern. Kaplan and crew join the party at 1 p.m. Eastern. And Pharrell Coast to Coast keeps things rolling from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Get in the mix with Kevin Walsh and Game Time Decisions at 6 p.m. Eastern. Evenings simmer with Carver and Lisi. Then boils over with Gabe Moritzi on Sports Rage Late Night at 10 p.m. Eastern. To find out where to find SportsGrid that's best for you, go to SportsGrid.com. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. That's 800-797-1292.
Think of us as your cool roommate that has this innate gift of somehow always picking winners and never bugs you about doing the dishes or paying rent. Sports gaming strategies and information 24/7.
Get the winning edge.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, continuing our conversation, wrapping it up here. We're talking about the FanDuel Week 15 specials that you could dive into. I left off talking about Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison to each have 100 yards receiving this week. They both broke out against Atlanta with the Sam Darnold performance, 346 and 5 touchdowns. You want to back it up again, 80-1 this week, Scotty. So that's not a bad number if you want to jump on both of those players. How about this one? Saquon and Najee Harris to combine, and I'm assuming it's for 200 rushing yards on FanDuel plus 650. You like that?
That's not bad, right? Those are two realistic numbers. As long as it's combined, right? Not each.
Nope, it says combined.
Yeah. See, I can see Saquon going for like
Jordan
50.
Addison and JJ weren't combined; they were each. So that's the difference, right? But the Saquon and the Najee are combined. So Saquon could go for 120, Najee 80, and you win the bet at plus 650.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, it's Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, so it's the same game. Little rivalry, obviously there between the two teams in Pennsylvania. One running back trying to upstart the other one. That's not bad. 650 for those two guys. Like I said, I think you get Barkley's probably the better one of going a little bit more over 100. Right. But as long as it's combined and it's not each, I would do that.
How about this one? San Fran and LA. Puka Nacua and George Kittle to have 30 yards receiving in each half is 8-1.
Wow. I thought you were going to say quarter. I was like, 30 yards in each half, 8-1? Ooh. Hard not to like that, right? Both coming off monster games, I get that, but still, both are really good anyway. So whether they're coming off a monster game or not, it's amazing how they pick guys that are coming off monster games because they know people are like, wow, he's going to do that again. And then they also know in the back of their mind, like, chances are they're not going to do that again. But I would still 30 yards in each half. I would take my chances on that.
Anthony Richardson and Big Bad Bo Nix to combine for 3 rushing touchdowns, 3-1.
No.
Not enough?
That's a low number. Yeah, 3. If you were going to give me Jalen Hurts, okay, but
okay.
Nah,
here's another one.
That's got to get higher.
Go back to the Vikings. JJ and Addison to combine for 250, 11-1.
11-1. Bears Monday night. What are we going to get out of that Bears defense? Probably nothing, right? 250 is a lot. You might put a sprinkle on it, but
it's at home.
Yeah,
it's
true. It is at home.
330 and 2 touchdowns in Soldier Field about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, but you need 300
only had 2 catches, 27 yards.
Yeah. Listen, it's 11-1. For 11-1, I would do it. But do I think that was going to hit? Probably not. Not realistically. That's a lot of yards.
I'll give you one more, guys. Scotty. Any quarterback to throw for 450 yards, 16-1.
450 yards, right?
You love Jameis.
I'm looking at the game. Jameis, you got Rams and Niners, Rams and Niners.
What about Mahomes?
Not Mahomes. Not Mahomes. I'm thinking maybe the Lions and Bills. Could Allen do it again? I'd take a crack at that. I'd take a little crack at that. I think you got about 4 or 5 guys.
I like this one. Jordan Love and Geno Smith to combine for 6+ rushing and passing touchdowns. You get them both on the ground plus 550.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. You don't think Jordan Love is good for 3 and Geno for 3?
I don't think Geno's good for 3. And then the Packers been running the ball. They've fallen in love with what's his face now. I guess they realized that that's why they got him for the Raiders. I don't like that one. Jacobs, right. Yeah.
That's it. I'll throw one more. Drake May and Kyler, each to have 10 rushing yards in each half. 470.
That I would do. I think that could happen.
That's almost 5-1. That's not bad.
Yeah.
I like that one too. And we'll throw the Cowboys in there. Deron Bland to have a pick six. 32-1.
Always worth a shot.
Now you've done it.
You found the advantage for gaming, odds, and more. But we call it the winning edge for short. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.